Hello everyone and welcome back to the Market Bites. Hope you're all doing well, enjoying your start to the week. We have royalty back with us today. Unfortunately, no Josh Gilbert, but we are joined by Neja Molk again. Neja, how are you?
Hi, Sam. It feels good to be back, actually, because since my daughter arrived in June, I've been living mostly mom life. She's been doing great. She's growing like crazy, but I miss this part where I join you for the podcast. And there's been so much happening on the market that I'm happy to be back and discuss everything that's been happening in the past weeks.
Yeah,
How are you, by the way?
yeah, no, all good. I mean, the markets continue to move, don't they? It's always a new
Yeah.
story, and even I know, obviously, your daughter was born a few months ago, but in this current situation, you miss a week, and then suddenly there's been three new stories.
Yeah.
Of course, we were in
Yeah.
Cyprus together last week for the summit, which was amazing. Great to see you and your daughter, and like you said,
Likewise.
she's growing. But even then, there's loads of things that happened last week. You had all the earnings out and stuff. But yeah, no, all good my end. How did you find the summit? I mean, it was 27 degrees and sunny, so pretty good.
It was perfect. Actually, Summit is one of the highlights of my year since it started 4 years ago. It's such an amazing event. I was discussing with few people that attended that this eToro community is so special because there is no competition among us as popular investors. There is so much support. I love to see everyone every year and to catch up with everyone. So you really leave the event with so much motivation for investing and to grow. So I'm so happy that I was able to attend and to see all of you in person, because that is not something that would happen every week.
Yeah, but it's been too long on that part. For those that don't know, the summit we had 200, I think, give or take, popular investors, and we were in Cyprus, and we had load of like sessions and speeches and networking. It was fantastic to see load of people for the first time, and also catch up with load of people that I haven't seen for a while. So yeah, really good session. But the markets keep moving. And actually, I've got a
Yeah.
question for you, because there will be plenty of people that are listening to this that have children or are going to have children, and are investing. How did you sort of stay as up to date as you could with the markets? Was it a case of reading something every week, or was it looking at the markets every now and then? How did you sort of go about it to stay as informed as you could?
You know what? It's hard not to follow up with the market when there is so much happening. But of course, it's difficult when you have a little one that needs all of your attention.
Yeah.
But I am so grateful that I have so much help around me.
Mm.
I really didn't realize that it takes a village to raise a kid, and it really does. So yeah, I've been following as much as I could. Obviously, for the first few weeks, I tried to keep it low, but
Yeah.
now I'm trying to catch up and follow more and more. But of course, she needs me, and I'm there for her. And do you know that we actually started investing for her
Ooh.
since age 0? So I think that's the only way to get 18 years of experience at 18 years old.
Yeah. Well, fast forward 18 years, and she's going to be in a very good situation, I hope. So yeah,
Hopefully.
that's great news, and also I imagine there will be people listening to this that are thinking you're doing the same, and yeah, it's a great idea. Whether that be people looking to do that sort of every month in ETFs
Yeah.
or whatever, it's a good idea. And I suppose if we go back a few months ago, the markets have been pushing higher since then. There's a little bit of a wobble at the moment. I was just looking at things yesterday. We're recording this Wednesday, the 5th of November. The 4th, Bitcoin slipped below 100K for the first time since June or July. I think it's above that at the time
Yeah.
of recording now. Nasdaq was down 1.5%, and I wonder, and this is maybe more of a question for people on YouTube. Feel free to to drop a comment. Do you think we're getting to sort of wobbly territory where markets are going to come down, or has nothing changed and we're just going to continue up? So I put that question out there to people tuning in. But Neja, topics for us today, as always, the title gives it away. But what we will discuss, we'll have a look at weight loss companies. Some of them are reporting or reported. So that'll be quite interesting. And then we'll also have a quick look into Palantir, which had their earnings out on Monday after the market closed, spiked higher, dropped lower, and we can discuss all of that. But that sounds good to you?
Yeah, that sounds perfect. I think that Palantir is obviously the topic we have to discuss after their earnings report. And also, weight loss drugs, maybe not the hottest topic out there at the moment, as all of these things with AI are happening, but still, Novo released their earnings report this morning, so I think it's worth discussing.
Yeah, absolutely. Before we go into Novo and all of those things, what for those that don't necessarily know the big players, the big companies, who sort of have that market share at the moment?
Yeah, it's been kind of the same for years now. There are two giants, Novo Nordisk
Hmm.
and Eli Lilly. Both of them are kind of behind these blockbuster GLP-1 drugs that everyone knows, and they're so popular among Hollywood celebrities. Those are Ozempic, Wegovy from Novo, and Mounjaro and Zepbound from Lilly. And together, they actually dominate the entire weight loss prescription drugs market. And if we discuss those two companies, Novo has been a clear leader for a while, and this Wegovy drug became a global phenomenon. And their demand expanded, and actually Novo Nordisk held a title of Europe's most valuable company for a while. But this year, there was a kind of a shift. We can see that Novo stock is trading about 40-50% lower since the beginning of the year. And the reason for that are these production bottlenecks, and there is competition from cheaper versions, and also disappointing trial results for their new drugs. So, for earnings that came out today, they also trimmed their guidance and lowered their growth outlook. So they're dealing with some kind of issues recently, but their competitor, Eli Lilly, is currently doing much, much, much better. They released earnings last week, and their drugs Mounjaro and Zepbound sales more than doubled year over year, and the company raised their full year outlook. So it is kind of a battle happening at the moment, but I still that Novo is still not out of the race, because they are preparing new drugs. They're preparing a Wegovy in pill option, which could shake things up, because there are patients who prefer tablets over injections. And I think this is an obvious choice. And they're also investing in new combination drugs. So this could really change where this all weight loss trajectory is going. But yeah, right now is kind of duopoly between those two companies, but there are some others that are also developing in this market, and those are rivals like Amgen, Roche, and AstraZeneca. They're all working on their own next generation treatments, and they are based on, for example, monthly shots and also tablet options. But I think that they're still kind of years behind, so it will take a while for them to catch up with Novo and Eli Lilly. But I think that market still has a lot of options for expanding, and there is still room for surprises, and we will see what will happen. Because even today, Novo was trading already 4% lower while when they released earnings report.
Yeah.
But now it is already up 1% after they had their earnings call. So we will see what will happen.
Yeah, it's an interesting industry, and I guess quite volatile at times, especially around
Yeah.
new announcements, legislation, trial results. There's a few things that can really sort of spike it multiple cent higher or lower on any given day. It's interesting you mentioned there was a period, wasn't there, where Novo was the biggest company in Europe. Quiz
Yeah.
question for those listening: where do you think it stands now? Have a little guess. It's as of this morning, right now, it's eighth in the list. You've got
Yeah.
ASML number one, LVMH number two, SAP three. I mean, by the end of the day, if it pushes higher a little bit, it could be number seven. Siemens and Novo. There's only 1 billion in between them. That sounds a lot, but of course, in market terms, it's nothing. And I think over the last 6 months, we'll have a look at the chart shortly, actually, because I've got them in front of me. But Novo is down a fair bit over the last sort of 6 months. Where if you think Eli Lilly, as you mentioned, is killing it, up 20% over 6 months. You go back to a year ago, 365 days ago, it's up quite nicely. 3 years, 162%. So it's doing well, Eli Lilly, and trading pretty much, not far off its all-time high, which we had in August last year, and it's the highest as of right now of this year, which is also a sort of a double top. So we'll come back to the charts in a moment, but it is an interesting industry where it can be volatile at times, but breakthroughs can lead to sustained gains. So it's always one to focus on a lot. I guess, as we mentioned, some have reported, some are still going to report, but as a whole, as we headed into this earnings season and we continue to go through it, for someone like yourself, what are you keeping an eye on in relation to these earnings?
Yeah, that's hard to say. Of course, we have to look at the basic numbers, but I think that the main difference is who will be able to sustain this growth as weight loss drug market becomes more competitive. Because Eli Lilly came in with strong gain, their revenue jumped by more than 50%, and demand for their drugs is massive. But Novo, on the other hand, they posted strong results, but they were kind of just solid, and they lowered their guidance. So all of that caused investors not to be that positive about the stock. But I would say that there are kind of three key areas to watch when analyzing those companies' earnings report. And for me, this is supply and execution. I already mentioned how Novo is dealing with some supply issues. They actually said that their production is back on track, but I think that investors will want to see a proof before they start putting more money into the company. And on the other hand, Eli Lilly is expanding manufacturing in US and Europe, and this gives them a clear edge for now. There is another point, which is pricing and access, because I mentioned that Novo stock rebounded this morning after earnings release. And the reason for that were comments on US pricing, because there are talks about how US government will give kind of program out, which will give lower pricing for their drugs in Medicare program and things like that. So I think that this could really turn things around. Third thing, there is innovation and pipeline. I always take a look what are their comments on their drugs that they are still developing and what are trial results. Because of course there will be a next wave of weight loss drugs. And I think this is the most important part of how and what are they developing and when we can expect those drugs actually on the market. For now, based on these three areas, I would say that Eli Lilly is winning this near-term race. But that doesn't mean that they are already like complete winner. I think that Novo still has an option to bounce back. They have this brand trust, they have a strong R&D, and they can catch up with supply. But I think that next few quarters will be crucial for them. And also we can see some of the other competitors shaking things up in this market. So I think that it's gonna be an interesting area to watch for all investors.
Yeah, definitely. And I've always thought of this industry, and certainly if the weight loss drugs do incredibly well and get better and more people take them, that it's a very disruptive industry, to be honest, in that it can affect other sectors. I remember a while ago when I first sort of heard about what Novo Nordisk were doing, Eli Lilly were doing. I was like, well, what's this going to do to a company like, I don't know, McDonald's, where, people love it, they go to it, it's fast food. We all know it's relatively unhealthy, but as these weight loss drugs, take effect, and people therefore become healthier, you're going to have to see companies like McDonald's in the food and beverage industry, you know, actually maybe create new products that are more healthy, or sort of in that sort of direction. And it'd be interesting, I guess, to see the ripple effect over time. I mean, it could also even go down to affect like fashion, right? As people's weight
Yeah.
changes, they need to buy more, or certain types, fitness companies, wellness and companies as well, lifestyle services. As more people sort of use weight loss medications, demand for those services could well increase as well. And it's a really interesting one that I think is worth diving into. Maybe we do it on another episode. But there's, I guess, for a lot of companies, the negative risk if beforehand this sort of weight loss drug, if it's not about their business continues as it is, now it's about things have to change, but they need to see it as an adaptation opportunity. And more, for example, just using McDonald's here, like more low calorie options or plant-based options, whatever, salads. I can't quite see McDonald's doing that, but they're going to have to adapt, right? If this really does
Yeah.
go mainstream. And I was reading a while ago, I think there was an article on it, and I've actually got the headline in front of me. It says Ozempic like fat jabs are hitting supermarket sales as shoppers cut back on snacks. So you're already starting to see a bit of an impact on that. So for those companies that could well be affected, it's worth keeping an eye on. And then if you wanted to go down into it, you look at health insurance, you look at luxury and travel, you look at advertising and media. They're going to have to start changing things as well. Retail and beauty and personal care. So there's quite a few areas that can be affected by all of this as well, isn't there?
Yeah, of course. And I think the trend is going in this healthy lifestyle
Yeah.
direction. Because even you mentioned McDonald's and all of these fast food chains. If you take a look at their advertisements, you can see more and more green color everywhere, healthy snack options. And that makes sense because those drugs that I mentioned, those are not magic injections that will make you skinny. They actually require lifestyle changes.
Yeah.
And your appetite changes. And that's why, as you mentioned, yeah, there is less desire for unhealthy snacks because simply you're not that hungry anymore. And I think that's overall trend can go in this direction, especially with all of these longevity talks and those weight loss drugs. I think that everything will go in this way, and those companies will have to adapt eventually. But yeah, I think that we should have an extra episode on discussing what else could change with this trend. For now, I think that we covered most of the fundamentals, but there is also a part that I don't know as much as you do about it. So could you take a look at charts of these companies?
Yeah. I mean, I'll post some of these on the eToro platform or Twitter X later on. But I'm just looking at Eli Lilly, and it's actually a phenomenal chart in many ways. One, it's near its all-time high, as we mentioned. 1 year, 3 year, it's done really well. But there was a drop actually from July of last year to July, August of this year, 36%. Right, it's a pretty big move, and it's recovered quite a lot since then. So I think with a lot of these companies, when you do get those dips for whatever reason, the recoveries on good news can be very solid. So since that August low, July low I mentioned this year, it's up 50%, and it's getting closer to that all-time high. We're actually heading into what is a very, very key resistance level for anyone that looks at technical analysis, in and around sort of 934. You would feel if it gets through that, from a technical perspective, the next direction is to break through the all-time high. So for those that look at Eli Lilly, for those that are long, for those that are looking at areas to take profit in and around these points is very key. A big battle between the bulls and the bears. Novo is a different story, right? It's a company that, as we mentioned, was the number one market cap company in Europe. It's now number 8 or 9, depending where the day finishes. And it's just been in this downward channel since June of last year, where it's just been pushing higher. Every time it looks like it's going to recover, new selling comes in. And for me, technically, looking at this, the key level to this all, for that to end and the bulls to take over, it would need to close at a week above 385. So if it doesn't do that, the sellers will continue to take control, and you'd be looking at levels from 2021 if it keeps moving lower, which is remarkable considering the last time we traded at 213 in 2021, we then went 384% higher. So it's one where I see a lot of people online about Novo saying, what an opportunity this is. They're going to eventually recover, and there's no guarantee that they do. But I do wonder when you get a company as big as this that has been trending lower for, what's that, June, a year and a half almost, that it could well be a good opportunity for people to look to buy the dip. But that said, I think we need to get back above 385 for sentiment to really change. But as I said, I'll post these on the eToro feed or Twitter later on, just to get people's opinions as well, but show you all what I'm looking at. But yeah, an interesting area, interesting subject, and there will always be movement in here, especially when there's trials and earnings and legislation and tariffs and all of this. There's going to be a lot going on in the future as well as now.
Yeah, you made many good points. And one thing that I forgot to mention is that Novo has a new CEO. So this could also be a positive point if he made some good changes. For now, everyone is quite positive about him. So we will see how that goes. Anyway, we saw healthcare stocks kind of pushing a bit higher yesterday, while all the other market was trading a bit lower. You mentioned that Nasdaq dropped about 1.5% or 2% yesterday, and there is a weakness in tech stocks. And that brings us to our second topic, which is Palantir, which fell about 8% after beating earnings estimates. So what do you think? What are your thoughts about Palantir at the moment?
Yeah, it's an interesting one, isn't it? Because I imagine if you were completely new to the markets and you'd sort of learn a little bit about earnings and estimates and that, and then someone gave you a piece of paper with what was expected and then what came out, and then you had to make a decision whether the share price has gone higher or lower, you would review it and say it's gone higher. That's not what happens. So that in itself is quite interesting, and it goes back to a point that I've made a lot on this podcast before, that I think for newer investors and even experienced investors, it can always be quite useful to give it a bit of time after the earnings to let the market tell you how it's actually reacted to it. So we had that spike higher, 4-5%, and then it drops, as you mentioned, another, or 8% overall on the day, so more than 8% from those highs. And actually, I did an episode on Trader Talks yesterday, and chucked in a few technical levels, and it's interesting. There's a trend line that started from April this year, and it respected that early this morning. So it feels like that's a real key line of defense. So I'd encourage anyone who's looking at Palantir to check that episode out. But they beat earnings. They had a phenomenal report in many ways. Their revenue guidance, wasn't too bad as well. They lifted that. Look, they've had a very good year. I think that's worth mentioning. If you got a stock that, I'm just going to do it from the April lows to the high that we had this year. It was, it's 230%. It headed higher into the earnings. It had to be amazing for it to continue to push up. It was good. I guess it wasn't maybe absolutely amazing. I think if I was a long-term Palantir holder and I'd taken profit along the way, I'd still be happy to hold this. If I was a relatively new investor, it's something where you'd probably be a little bit more worried about the short to medium direction. But They expect to see adjusted operating income between 695 and 699 million, which is more than the 575 million that was expected. So that'd be a tick next to its name. They foresee revenue of 1.3 billion for the fourth quarter. 1.2 billion was projected, so that's another tick next to it. As I mentioned, the revenue guidance is up, and I guess if we were to put it down to reasons, you'd say profit taking was a reason maybe it's come lower. Those sky high valuations as well, and it's a mixture of all of that, and it not being absolutely mind-bogglingly amazing report that meant it had to come down a little bit. But year-to-date performance is still amazing. 5-year performance still amazing. Performance since the IPO extraordinary. I'm not sure if you saw yesterday morning or the 2 evenings ago, Michael Burry is taking sort of negative bets against Palantir and Nvidia, which are two obviously the biggest AI players in the world at the moment. Whether that works or not, people make a joke about Michael Burry, don't they? They say he's predicted 25 of the last 3 stock market crashes. So there's not to say he just because he's doing it's going to happen, but it is worth maybe paying a little bit of attention to that, and he would have done that before the earnings. They've come lower, so at the moment you'd imagine he's sort of okay with that. But yeah, for those that are interested in the chart, do check it out. But Neja, I mean, this valuation is sky high, and it's significantly higher than those Mag 7, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it's trading at about 240 times forward earnings, and this is becoming hard to defend, I think. Even though they reported better than expected results, I think that investors are starting to worry that it is as good as it gets, and this is kind of a final stage of AI rally. But in my opinion, I am relieved, to be honest, because we finally see some cooling off after few months of non-stop gains. And I think that it's good that also market has a bit of correction, that things finally cool down a bit. That doesn't mean that AI story is over. I just think that market needs a bit of relief.
Yeah.
Because last week, I saw, I don't know which day it was, but SP 500 was trading higher. But I was looking at my watch list, and everything seems to be in red. So I was like, how is that possible? Is there a glitch? But no, it was correct. It's the only issue was that Nvidia and those companies that make up the highest percentages in SP 500 were trading higher, but actually 80% of other companies in SP 500 were trading lower. And I think that this kind of domination, it is a bit risky, and investors are finally thinking about it, and they're not that optimistic about how far it can go. For me, I think that AI demand is not slowing down, but we kind of see this short-term correction that could continue in next few days or weeks. But in the end, I think it's not over.
Yeah, I'm with you. And pullbacks are healthy. Pullbacks are healthy
Yeah.
in a lot of markets. And again, we've all mentioned this before, but if you were to look back at any of the, I don't know, top 10 companies in the world, they've all had multiple 30, 20, 40% pullbacks along their journey. So for long-term Palantir holders, or for any company, especially in a diversified portfolio, it's fine, isn't it? And if you do take profit and trim positions over time, it is what it is.
If you have
reaction.
A long-term view, it's much easier, I think.
Yeah, for sure, it is. And also it's just one quarter in the grand scheme of things. But yeah, I think for many markets, even when you obviously want them to go up over time, it's healthy to see a little bit of a pullback, new buyers come in, shake out any sort of shorter term traders as well. So yeah, overall I think it's fine still. Neja, we'll wrap it there for today. Plenty more to discuss in future episodes, but I feel like we covered a lot today, and it's an absolute pleasure to have you back with us.
Thank you so much, Sam, and see you guys next week.
See you guys.